I still think this is one of my favorite drawings because I've never actually drawn a fish before, but this one turned out to be phenomenal. And about halfway through the drawing, I actually really wasn't liking how it was turning out, but I trusted the process and I just kept going with it, and I ended up really liking the results, and I still like it to this day. So with the eye, there was a lot that's going on, a lot of reflections, a lot of different colors, and I chose to use a earthy, rich green color and then a little bit of brown to blend in with some of the cool tones that you see in there. So I use this like darker blue that's almost a gray color, and then I worked around the details around the black itself. So I used a sharp pencil for the black to make sure it's really well enhanced and nice and detail oriented, nice and sharp. The rest of the steps are once I finish the eye, I like to go around the eye, work on some detail around it. So I kind of start with the top part, and this is just one of those mossy green colors. Once again, I like to use Faber-Castell, Polychromos, and Caran d'Ache Luminance. And what I'm using the most is the Caran d'Ache Luminance. You'll see if it looks like a brown color pencil, not brown, but regular color pencil color. That is the Caran d'Ache Luminance. And then when it shows an actual color throughout the whole pencil, that is the Faber-Castell. Now to really get into the details here, I use the black color pencil. Normally I don't like to use the black for the first couple of layers, but for this one, because it's so rich and sharp with these colors and the scales, I decided to just go ahead and use the black. And don't worry about details all too much. Really, I just want to get in kind of more of like the shape or the design, and then worry about like the details of the part where it does look more like scales, or the wet look where you have that reflection going on. You definitely want to leave room for the highlighted parts. I always say that. When it comes to fish, it's different than furry animals. So you definitely don't have to draw in the same direction nearly as much, but just try to stay consistent with both shading as well as uh, the colors that you're using. You definitely don't want to use one set of colors for the first half and then completely different set of colors for the second half. It just won't look cohesive ultimately. And trust me, I do know what I'm talking about when it comes to that, because I have made that mistake before. And I wouldn't necessarily say that drawing fish is good for beginners. I'd say more intermediate to advanced, because there's so much detail that's involved when drawing fish that I definitely had a challenge for this one. Whereas normally when it comes to drawing animals, it's really not too much of a challenge, but anything outside of fur is a challenge for me. So bugs, fish, just those kind of things are definitely more of a challenge. But I think it's a good challenge though, because I kind of went outside my norm and tried out different colors that I thought would look well and cohesive and natural at the same time, because you could really go in with some neon colors in it. It may or may not work so well, but for this one, I definitely went with just some stronger colors, not necessarily neon, but a little bit more stronger, like the green tones for sure. And getting the shape of the gills was probably the hardest part for me, mostly because I did draw a light trace, but I don't think that trace is necessarily like a good representation for proportions. I think that you need to, while you're drawing, make sure that you are drawing it proportionally outside of your sketch. Like the sketch is just a guideline, not a definitive area for where that shape originally was and or needs to be. So if you are drawing outlines, don't think that you're cheating, because ultimately you're not. You're still having to draw freehand, and it is quite difficult no matter what you're doing, whether you're tracing or freehanding. It is still a challenging medium to use. So I am using a blend of gray colors and then a blend of some browns in there. I think the more variety you have of the colors that you're using, like all still being the same, the better and more realistic it's going to look ultimately. So when you are drawing, keep that in mind too. I like to always have about 10 colored pencils for each portrait that I'm using. Definitely no less than 5 for sure. And I don't know if in some of my videos you might see it, but in my left hand, I'm carrying like a good hefty set of colored pencils, and I'm trading them out as I'm going along. If I were to set them down, I'm less likely to switch them out as fast, and or also like figure out what color pencil I need next. So I'm just very fast paced and fast thinking about all this. I used to be a lot slower, and sometimes I have to slow down for my students in real life too, but I like to draw more fast paced now, whereas I used to draw a lot slower. And I still have to force myself to slow down even in when I'm drawing by myself. That way I know that I'm getting all the details that I want to get done, and I'm not rushing through any of it. You definitely don't want to rush through the process, mostly because you'll end up losing details, and you won't and really appreciate the amount of work and depth and details that are involved if you do rush through it. So it won't be as satisfied in the end. And I know that from experience. So I'm using a burnt sienna to add a red tone to some of the green areas and just all around in general. So I'll continue to use that same color, but that mix between the burnt red and the green, I think it really makes it pop. And I really am enjoying, at this point in time, I am starting to enjoy the portrait. Now, all of those little dots, yes, that's very tedious and redundant, but once again, trust the process. Don't feel like you have to make them look exactly like the reference image. I am always saying to everybody, I am not a photorealistic artist. I'm just a realistic artist. And there's a big difference. One of them is it is your key signature artist skills, and the other is just trying to draw exactly what you see. And I think I definitely think that both are considered art 100%. But I think that having your own textures and your own way of drawing makes it so much more unique. And the other thing that I'm kind of working on too is not making it look too realistic, because a lot of people just completely glance by my work thinking that it's just a photograph or it's AI or something. And they have to stop and look and read all of the signs that I have that's saying this is colored pencil. And once they do, then they're completely in awe. But a lot of people just glance and walk by or don't even think about it. And that really just, honestly, that saddens me a lot. I know it's a compliment in a way, but it also saddens me because I don't get a lot of views because they think it's just AI, or they think it's just a photograph. So I'm trying my best to make it look more of a color pencil drawing and not like too hyper realistic ultimately. So in the main body, you could see I used yellow and a like fuchsia color or hot pink color. I kind of added the details first and then worked with the rest of the layers. I think that maybe I could have done it a little bit differently, but I really still wanted to get in those shapes. That way I know, like, okay, this is where it's located. And then I'll add in the details a little bit more later. But I just try to work around it as best as possible. And you'll see how I go back over it here in just a minute. But you can see the green slash blue looking, what do you call those little humps or whatever? I wanted to incorporate that as well and just draw it like very light and sketchy looking first. And then getting to the top part where this is like the reflection that's happening. This is a key component to it looking like it's a fish in water or just fresh out of water. Still has that nice shiny reflection going on. It's very nice and smooth. And no, it's not just blue and gray colors in that. Yeah, you could see that there's actually some green tones. So I'm applying that. And that what that is it's showing that underneath that shininess is the rest of the fish's body here. And then if you're wondering what that paintbrush is, it is mineral spirit oil that I use to blend everything together. It really helps to prevent hand cramps and carpal tunnel over time because then I don't have to apply as much pressure. And then once I apply other color pencils on top, it just really adds a nice smooth detail to it. It also kind of enhances some of those colors. So that's why I like to use that along with color pencils. People will ask me, is it all just one media? Is it just color pencils? And I just, I say yes, but I feel like I'm kind of lying in a way because I'm using mineral spirit oil. But honestly, it's just a solvent, it's not another art medium. So ultimately, yes. I am just using one media and not, markers or paints or whatever. So yeah, I am just using one media. I guess I just talked myself out of believing that it's a lie. But continuing on here. So now I'm using the black to get in that nice sharp detail. You can also use white to do a little bit of highlights and burnishing. If you're wondering what burnishing is, it's just a way of creating a nice waxy coating over a couple of layers. And so it just makes it really nice and smooth. And it also lightens up some areas. This portrait definitely took me a long time, mostly because I'm drawing around the details and I just didn't know any better way. Like I could use an electric eraser and erase those bits, but because it's such a dark green in the body itself, I knew that if I were to use the electric eraser, it wouldn't come out nearly as light or strong of a yellow as I wanted. So I did work around the yellow bits and just added a little bit more yellow and white to enhance those spots later on. So you'll see how that works. But I wanted to also keep some of this sketchy look to the main body because it also kind of helps to show that it scales instead of just a very smooth looking fish. So you'll see what I mean here in just a couple of minutes. But yeah, I use that white color pencil to burnish the whole area. Now I'm using this very, it's not a neon green, but it's a very strong earthy green. So I like to use the variety of different greens, especially more earthy looking ones, not the neon ones. You can definitely play around with neon, like I said earlier, but I tend to stick with more natural colors. Um, I like the look of the more natural tones. And there we go with the mineral spirit oil. Now you can still see the details of the yellow, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I just couldn't figure out the best way to really get in those details. But now I'm using the white. So I did find that there is a trick to the lighter areas. So if you already have like the light color in there, and then you still ended up like darkening some of those areas by mistake or whatever, you can go back over that area with a lighter color and it should still show up more so than if you were to just completely draw with the dark color pencil and then added the lightness around it or subtracted by using the eraser. So it's just kind of like protecting that layer so that you can go back over it again later on, and you'll see what I mean here in just a few minutes too. So I'm using the white, lighten up some of those little dots. And yeah, I should have just like done that kind of from the beginning, but it is what it is. You learn as you keep practicing. Like I've been doing this for 7 years now and I am still learning. And so some of those yellow dots are actually a little bit more white looking. So that's why I went in with the white and then used that hot pink to kind of create that sense of like almost like a salmon color in a way with the yellow. I don't know, just really applying all those different colors, I think really helped make this portrait look amazing. And I'm always encouraging anybody that I talk to and my students to try out different colors that you just don't normally think to use and see how it looks. Like just because it's a very bright color does not mean that it's going to come off as like super vibrant or too strong. It's really all about the pressure, the quantity of how much you're using it, and then the pressure as well. Those two things make a big difference. But now you can really see like the highlights are looking really nice. Like that glossy reflection is looking amazing. I'm adding some more yellow in there. Um, and yes, I'm using the electric eraser. See what I'm saying? Like I already drew a light color pencil before I used the darker, and I was able to erase a lot stronger now because of that. And then getting in that line, super, super important. You really want to make sure you're getting those details in even afterwards. And I could use that slice tool. That's what I call that. It's actually called slice tool. You can get it on Amazon or their website. But it's almost like an X-Acto knife to etch away some details. And I use it very, very sparingly. I don't use it very often. But when I do, it's something like that where it's just this very fine highlights. So now I'm just going back over some areas that I think need to be adjusted. You can do that too. You don't have to necessarily just completely finish a section and then move on to the next. You can just mostly finish it, move on to the next thing, and then go back over it and adjust it. Like I know this eye was way messed up, so I need to fix it. I definitely struggle with weird creature eyes. Like I'm really good with regular animals, woodland animals, but other ones, I have to make a lot of adjustments. But we are so close to being done now. The fin is not, there's not too much to it. But if you just follow along or just watch and see how I do it, a lot of fins are very similar where they have that fan look and you just kind of want to draw those lines. But, look at the reference image a lot and see, okay, what kind of colors is in this? And then make sure you're using light pressure first and then start to use heavier pressure afterwards. Even if you're using darker colors, still work with light pressure to heavy. That way, if you do make mistakes, you can erase it a little bit better than if you had heavier pressure. I know this one's definitely a long one, but bear with me. We're almost done here. So the fin is looking very good. Now it's time to add some detail to it. So you can use, I'm using the burnt sienna and then adding like black to get in the details. And then it's just the same, texture and patterns as the rest of the body. So I still think it looks very much like a sketch than a photorealistic part, at least for the fin. But this is all a part of the trust the process. And what I mean by that is uh, it really looks like a mess until it doesn't. So just keep building up those layers. That's what I tell students. Keep building up the layers. Make sure you're using light pressure, because if you use heavy pressure and you build up those layers, it's going to ruin the paper and you won't be able to add those details in after that. And that is what I mean about you know, going slow, being patient, trusting the process, because you definitely don't want to make that mistake where you draw too heavy and it just looks like a mess. I was going to cuss, but try not to here on YouTube. But yeah, it just looks like a mess, and you don't want that. Now the fins are very fun because it's a completely different color. So I'm using a blend of reds and orange to create that salmon look. And then the belly of the body here is very similar too, but just a little bit more toned down. And I like to use that contrast of warm tones and cool tones. I'm always talking about that in every single video, but I really want to, drive that in to your brain that you can use a contrast of cool tones and warm tones to create a very nice sense of realism and depth. So you can see on the right hand side of the belly that there's that nice cool tone going on. That's the blue. And then the left side is the warm tone. So it creates almost like a reflective look when you're using cool tones in the highlighted areas, and then warm tones for more like the midtones. Let me know what you think in the comments below too. So if you have any questions, concerns, whatever, if you think I could do something better, let me know. And if you do have any questions about something that you're currently working on, I'd be more than happy to help you. So I have all sorts of different programs and online classes that are all at your own pace because they're pre-recorded. So if you go to my website or you click the link down in the description below, I have draw your own class or draw your own portrait, but it's like you just take that individual class. So it can be any kind of animal that I have there as an option. So it could be a bunny, it could be a raccoon, it could be a bird, whatever it is, you just pick it out and then you download the instructions and then watch the video, and you can play and pause at your leisure. And then if you want to get more in depth, I have a whole 8-week program where you can learn to draw your own pet portrait. It's also really good for wildlife too, but it's 8 weeks. It's still at your own pace, but I just have it categorized as 8 weeks. That way it's easier to comprehend. But each week has a specific category. So one will be different types of animal fur, different colored animal fur, um, different animal features like eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. And then by the end, the second to last week, you will follow along a full pet portrait. And then the very last week, you draw your own pet portrait and then ask me a whole bunch of questions. So you can ask questions throughout the whole thing, but by the end of it too, I will evaluate your progress and give you more helpful tips and tricks if you need something like that. And you also get a little certificate by the end. So it's a lot of fun. My students really enjoyed it, and it is definitely a lot of work, but if you are dedicated to learning to draw, it is super helpful and it'll help you advance like tenfold compared to just watching these videos here. Okay, so we're really, really close to being done here. The fin is like the details. I used a white color pencil to add those lines in there. And then added a little bit of yellow to some of it. I think adding that yellow kind of adds some depth to the red there. But now it's just a matter of kind of making any adjustments that are necessary from this point on, really. I know it's very, very long, but if you made it this far, I'm proud of you. And I know that you are definitely more heavily invested in learning to draw if you did make it this far in the video. Um, Normally I make them around 20 minutes or less. So this one's definitely extra long, but it almost is necessary because of the amount of detail that is so heavily involved in this portrait. Okay, so I'm going to speed up this part a little bit more. It's really just adding a bunch of details, making it nice and smooth looking. That's pretty much it. So yeah, you can go back over your portraits. Just like a lot of people ask me, when do you know to stop? Well, it's just a matter of like taking a break from it and coming back to it later with a fresh set of eyes. But thank you so much for watching. And if you like this, please like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one.